Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And what we're going to talk about today is, let me ask a question. I want everyone to raise their hand because I'll be able to see, of course. You ever had a problem at work or at home or with a sibling or between siblings if you have children, it's endless, right? That something happens and let's say they use the parent example. You come in and you've got your two children and like there's a mess on the floor. Like, who did this? And what happens inevitably? It was him. She did it. I had the bowl and she knocked it out of my hand. Or at work. Well, Bob, how come you didn't get this done? Well, I didn't get the data from Susie fast enough. And so we're going to talk about those exact things. What I mean by that is what our guest this week calls blind blaming. So our guest this week is Kevin StClergy. He is a breakthrough specialist, keynote speaker, and author of a book, Beyond Blind Blaming. His work challenges leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people to stop solving superficial problems and start uncovering deeper, invisible constraints that hold us back. With his root cause discovery framework, Kevin helps people shift from a blame-based reaction into self-aware, empowered alignment. You'll find his work at blindblaming.com and across social media under Kevin StClergy. Today, we'll dig into what lies beneath the blame and how we break free. Let's get into it. Kevin, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, looking forward to this. And I was thinking, when I was driving to the studio today, I was thinking about your introducing you, and I'm like, I got some really good examples that I think will resonate with people
Yeah, go for
it. This idea of blind blaming, I've got kids. And so how many times does that happen? And people at work and, whatever. I mean, there's so many different examples of it. But before we start diving into that, Kevin, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial background and your journey.
Yeah. So, I'm actually an audiologist, believe it or not. I started as a hearing and balance specialist. That was my job. That's what I went to school for. But I got into the business side of that pretty quick. And we started working with a lot of people in private practice. In fact, I grew a business in that industry based on my first book to 450 clients with 900 locations across the country.
Oh, wow.
And it was a coaching and digital marketing business, but we worked with a lot of entrepreneurs in the medical field. And it was just something that I saw happening every single day. And with a marketing agency, you can probably guess, which will be one of my stories today, that I got blamed a lot for something that wasn't my fault.
No, that never happens, Kevin.
I know that never happens. People don't blame their marketing company at all, ever.
Yeah. Well, and even taking a step further, even intra-company, I've seen this, with what I do for a living and being a, business consultant and everything, is the salespeople blame the marketing people. The marketing people blame the salespeople. Why don't we have any sales? And they go, well, the marketing stinks. Our marketing collateral is terrible and it needs to be redone. And marketing people go, no. Yeah, and no leads. And the marketing people go, we're getting you leads. You just can't sell worth of crap. You stink at your job. And again, the finger pointing and the blind blaming, as it were. As we get into that, so the term blind blaming, how do you define that? What does that mean exactly for you, Kevin?
Yeah, and if it's okay, I'll share my origin story. It'll help define it for everybody. And I think you remember this when we first met. But when I was 10 years old, I was a phenomenal baseball player. And for those of you who don't know much about baseball that are listening and watching, I had a 550 batting average, which is not good. It's great. And then Babe Ruth in his heyday was 394, just to give you a little comparison there. So I really got into it. I practiced every day, worked really hard. It became my life. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to play college ball for the University of Texas. I wanted to go play for the Texas Rangers and kick Nolan Ryan's butt. That was my dream back then. I didn't realize at 10 years of age, he would be well into his retirement by the time I was able to play, but that's another story. So we worked really hard. And the next season I stood up to bat, but something was different. I started striking out, and I struck out every single time for the entire next year. And you can probably, I literally went from 0 to 0 and from 550 to 0. And you can probably guess what they were yelling from the stands. Come on, kid, keep your head in the game, play to win this time. Even my dad today, who's actually in town visiting, who did it again to me this week, doesn't remember what happened. He's like, yeah, when Kevin was 10 years old, he was the best GD ball player I've ever seen. And then his attitude went to hell. And I'm like, Dad, I just told you what happened. And you still don't remember. And he's like, oh, right, that, yeah. But your attitude. I was like, anyway. So we found out 2 weeks after I quit baseball, we found out what the real problem was. At a fluke eye exam, the doctor he just said, look, kid's practically blind without glasses. Sorry. I couldn't see the ball. Had nothing to do with how hard I was working. My swing coach, my dad was giving me mindset lessons. You can probably imagine how parents can be. Coaches pushed me hard. My parents pushed me the hardest. But at no point during that almost 3-year stint in baseball did the adults in my life stop blaming me for something that was out of my control. That's what we call blind blaming. And sometimes I think this is the issue that I have with a lot of self-help books these days, is a lot of times they're telling you, which I do think 100% responsibility is important, but they're pointing the finger back at you. And many times, like my baseball story, it was just something I couldn't see. It's blind because we start solving the wrong problem. We can't see what's actually going on. And it's blaming because human nature just has us instinctively blaming something or someone or even ourselves, when a lot of times it's not that we're failing at solving our problems, we're succeeding at solving the wrong problems perfectly.
Gotcha. Okay. So how would you say, Kevin, I mean, your example is obviously very powerful, and it makes sense that it would be your origin story. How do people fall into that pattern without maybe even realizing it? Like your parents or even folks around you, your coaches and things like that, even back from your story?
Well, I call them the 3 fatal flaws. And step one is when you have something and the first thing that comes to your mind, there's some cognitive biases that we have that make us latch on to certain things. They're mental shortcuts that help us do things better, protect ourselves, things like that. I'm sure if there's a psychologist listening, they can go a little deeper than that, but that's what it means to me. I keep it in English. And the first one is called availability bias. That means the first problem we think that pops into our head, that's it. That's what we need to fix. Just like from my customers in the marketing agency, when they said, oh, definitely a marketing problem, I need to fire Kevin. When I'm like, okay, well, look, I generated 22 leads for you last month and you only scheduled 2. And by the way, your team's only answering half the calls that are coming in. And when they do answer the call, they're blowing it. And fatal flaw number 2 is when we think we know what's going on, we start becoming a treasure hunter for data that backs up that and ignoring data that contradicts what we're thinking. It's actually called confirmation bias. And you see this all the time on Facebook when people get online and they're pissed off at their staff and they say things like, nobody wants to work anymore. And they get this flood of support. They don't realize that it's probably their hiring practices, their lack of core values that have been clearly defined, their onboarding processes. It's not that they don't want to work, they just don't want to work for you. And then finally,
right.
And finally, the last one is when you're busy trying to solve the wrong problem, you can't actually see solutions. You get focused on the wrong things. And it keeps you from moving forward and it keeps you stuck, sometimes for years.
Yeah, and all that makes sense. And I was wondering, you started that example with the confirmation bias. I mean, how often does that happen today in the media?
Oh, boy.
I mean, with so many different things, but especially politics, right? So, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is terrible. And then you come up with all these reasons. And by the way, you can do enough research and find some bad things, right? Or Donald Trump is the best thing since sliced bread. And you go out and you just look for those things and you ignore all the other stuff, right? It just happens so often. This team stinks, or this quarterback stinks and needs replaced. And same thing. I mean, I love that because it's something that happens all over the place. And I'm even thinking, in the workplace, how often those types of things happen as well. Is you think that you have this grand idea to fix fill in the blank, whatever the heck it is, and you're going to be the hero. And it's like, to your point, maybe you're looking on the wrong rock, and the correct rock is way over there, and you're never going to turn that thing over because you're just looking in the wrong spots. Fascinating stuff. I'm really looking forward to continuing conversation. We're going to hit a break here, guys. Again, we're talking Kevin StClergy. Easy for me to say, check out his book, Beyond Blind Blaming. Come back after the break, and we're going to talk about his root cause discovery method.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to Scarcity Countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Again, talking with Kevin this week. You can find out more, and we'll put this in the show notes as well. His website is blindblaming.com. You can also check him out on LinkedIn, Facebook, the Gram, and YouTube. So Kevin, let's talk a little bit about, I know you have the RCD method, your root cause discovery. And I know that's kind of a real central theme to what you do. Can you walk us through how that works and how, how that helps folks?
Yeah, sure. So in the book, we actually divided the book into 3 sections: awareness, to be aware of blind blaming and when it's happening. And then we call it the RCD method, which you just described. It actually stands for reflect, connect, and decide. Reflect, connect, and decide, which we'll go over in just a second. And that's what creates real transformation in a business or your lives. And we've seen it happen with a lot. We've been testing this framework now almost 3 years since I wrote the original TED Talk that turned into the book. So RCD stands for reflect, connect, and decide. The R, reflect, it means just you have to ask yourself a question. Is there something else going on that I can't see? That's at the core of the RCD method. Now, there's a thing that we developed called our obstacle deep nexus analysis, our obstacle DNA. And we go through 5 different areas of someone's life and or business to try to find that one thing. It's not about finding something in all 5 areas. It's about finding one thing that creates a ripple effect across their business and or their life. For example, recently I had someone who read the book and she came up to me and she's like, listen, I have a very successful business, but there was something missing. I didn't feel like it was going to the next level. And when I read your book, I did one of the strands is called the health strand because we want to make sure people are healthy. But there's something called hormone testing that a lot of doctors just aren't doing these days. And like when I found out that I had low testosterone, I was blown away because I'm getting up there in age. I'm 53 and I wasn't getting the gains I wanted at the gym. I started gaining some weight and didn't know why. I wasn't really motivated for other things we won't mention on this show. But she did the same thing. A lot of people don't know that a lot more women have low testosterone than men. And when she found out and she got that fixed, it created this ripple effect across her life and her business. Her husband noticed right away. Her team members were like, what's going on with you? You're in a lot better mood than you have been the last 7 years. And it just completely changed her life. But she didn't get there before. So she kind of followed the next section, which is connect. Connect means when you're stuck in that sphere of influence with other people in your circle, it's almost physiologically impossible for them or you to see what's really going on because you're all stuck in something I call the blame loop. You blame, then you become blind to other solutions, and it kind of goes from there, and you just get stuck in this vicious loop. But when there's people around you in the same circumstances, sometimes because of your success, sometimes because of your failures, they can't see it either. That's when you start getting what I call supportive sabotage from your friends. Just like the parents in the stand with my story were like, come on, kid, keep your head in the game. And my dad's like, adjust your attitude. When it wasn't my attitude, something else was going on. But it took somebody outside to see it, like the eye doctor. And another good health example is we had somebody who was really struggling with their time management to the point where employees were leaving, customers were quitting. The partner of this man got so frustrated that he actually hired him an ADHD coach because he was convinced he had ADHD and so was his team. So they really tried hard to work on his ADHD, get him a coach, tried planner after planner, block scheduling, everything that we've heard about in business and life that can help you be more efficient. And then his ADHD coach told him very quickly, look, I don't think that's what's going on. I think there's something else going on here. I'm going to send you back to your primary care doctor. And we sent him back to the primary care doctor. She said, so you struggled with ADHD your whole life? And he's like, no. And I wish people would stop saying that. It's driving me nuts. And so he's like, well, let's go through a few tests, and come to find out he had sleep apnea. He was chronically exhausted, but his team was convinced they knew exactly what was going on, and going so far as to hire an ADHD coach just made it worse because it made him more frustrated. Nothing got better. He was just chronically exhausted. And by the way, that was me 10 years ago. I know I sound like a total train wreck on the show, but these are just stories from my life. There's been more that we figured out with other people, like people that are convinced, as we said before, that it's their marketing when it's actually their front desk not converting the calls. And then finally, once you share it with, I like sharing it with a professional or hired coach, a business coach, or a paid mastermind group. And I like mentors. I think everybody should have them. But if you have a paid mentor, a paid coach, people who pay attention. and they're more invested in you. And when you get into a mastermind group, when you get around other people who are going through similar challenges in your profession, we've seen those change lives as well. So when you share what you think you know in the reflect stage, what I think is going on with your team or the coach or your team, and I always like to say, people ask me all the time, well, do you think I really need a coach? I'm like, well, how many Olympic athletes do you know that won a gold medal that didn't have a professional coach and weren't part of a team? Coach, mastermind. I definitely think you do it if you want to hit the next level, depending on your goals. And then once your coach or your mastermind has verified some of the things you think are going on or showed you something completely different, the last stage is called decide. And there's a fun story that I have with that, and I'll watch my language on your show. But there was a friend of mine, a coaching client, who was debating on 2 loans from 2 different sources, and they kept coming back with better offers. And I've been working with her 7 years, so we had a very good working relationship. And she's like, what do you think I should do, Kev? And I'm like, well, Kayla, and I've gotten permission to use her name, by the way, I think you need to make an effing decision. And I didn't say the effing word. And she's like, oh, okay. Okay, great. So she leaves, comes back a month later, and I always start the calls off, what's going well? And she's like, you've completely changed my life. I'm MFDing all over the place. I mean, even my husband notices. I'm making decisions quickly. I mean, yeah, we made some mistakes. Oh, by the way, I picked the loan. We went with them. We're moving forward. We bought the business. Things are great. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? MFD? She's like, yeah, make an effing decision. I'm doing it. Right. It's changed my life. And I was very nervous about that when Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul author, he loved it. And he's like, on tape, he's like, I even love your effing part. And I'm like, oh my God, Jack Canfield just said the F word on video. I can't use it in my marketing, but he said it.
Yeah.
That's turned out to be one of the biggest things that people walk away with in my keynotes, in the book. I'm like, what's your favorite part? What did you like best? MFD. Now I've done all the research. I've shared it with my coach, my mastermind. They've told me what I need to do. I need to MFD and get it done. And now people are putting on their t-shirts. They're putting it on their tennis shoes. In our mastermind groups, we had people break into some groups, and they came back and were like, well, we've taken MFD a step further. I was like, all right, let me have it. Well, if you MFD, you DES, and it stands for do epic, you know what. And so now people are putting it on their coffee mugs and everything else. It's just turned into this whole movement, which is very humbling and exciting. But yeah, RCD, reflect. Is there something else going on? Connect with a professional coach or a mastermind group. Once you know what you need to do, MFD, move forward. Something goes wrong, MFD again, try something different. If you want something different, do something different. You just have to decide to do so. So that's the RCD method and the quickest way I know how to present it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Let me go back though. So RCD makes all the sense in the world. It's like so often we have people on the show, and when you say these things out loud, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. But oftentimes we get so stuck in the weeds to not be able to see sort of that bigger picture. But let me take a step back further. You mentioned before you get to RFD, or RCD, I'm sorry, the awareness part, because this is blind blaming. How long does that take? I mean, someone who has that as a habit, I would think it would be, how long is it taking to sort of actually have some awareness and say, oh my gosh, I do this way more than I thought?
Sometimes years. I mean, I've had several people that when I had the original author copies, I was like, you know, Kevin, I didn't think I needed this because I don't blame anybody. And I'm like, that's BS. Everybody does it. Even me. And what's really bad is when you let your girlfriend read your book and she's calling you out every time you start blaming or complaining. It's hilarious. So yeah, I think it's just really being aware. Once people learn about it, then they're more aware. That's it. Once people that listen to the show, if they do anything, they don't have to buy anything from me. Just be aware that you're probably blind blaming right now and you don't know it. There is probably something for any unresolved problem that people have in their lives. There is a blind blaming situation going on right now. And the key is just be aware of that and be aware of the whole concept. And I promise you, it'll change your life.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it's just like a lot of things. You know, one of the things I focused on years ago was not making negative comments, because again, it's very similar. I think that it's tangential, at least, that people make a lot of negative comments during the day. Like, oh my gosh, look at this jerk pulled out in front of me, or this. And it's like staying away from those, and it keeps you out of that sort of that mindset. And I guess in some ways, in those negative comments, you're probably blaming someone, right? So guys, come back after the break. We're going to talk about how to fix some of these surface symptoms.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. And my tease was actually it was a test. It wasn't a test. It was a mistake. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was oftentimes people they default into fixing these surface problems, and that's not exactly what we want to do. What are some of those things that you've seen, Kevin, that are maybe common red flags, or maybe even just illusions that indicate that, you know, we're treating a symptom and not necessarily digging down into the root cause of what's going on?
Yeah, great question. I see it a lot, that if you have recurring problems that just don't seem to fix. I always ask people, hey, you ever get tired of solving the same problem? And I stop and they're waiting for more and they're like, oh, yeah, right, that one. So recurring problems, increased frustration, self-blame. When you start thinking, like the business examples that we used before, maybe it starts with, oh, marketing stinks, or my team doesn't want to work anymore. But eventually people start saying, especially if they read some of the more popular self-help books these days, is like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to take more responsibility. Now, I do agree with that, because there's a concept that we actually teach in the book. It's called take 100% responsibility for everything in your life. And to do so, there's two things you have to give up: blaming, which we've talked about, but also complaining. And it's kind of fun. I created this 7-day challenge for no blaming, no complaining, no excuses. And it's freaking hard. I did it myself. It took me 3 weeks, and I wrote the damn thing. So,
Right.
But you can get it if you want a free copy. It's stop.blindblaming.com. I hope it's okay to self-promote a free offer, but it's stop.blindblaming.com. It is harder than you think, but it's just an app you log into every day. You either say, yes, I made it. I didn't go the whole day. And I'm talking about not complaining about anything, like the weather or that guy that cut you off or whatever else comes into our minds, or the things that we're usually responsible for sometimes. So I'd say recurring problems, when you catch yourself blind blaming or blaming anything. And then when you start getting supportive sabotage, when people are saying things like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. Well, that's usually a sign that you're probably not fixing that problem that you got. And then you're starting to take advice from people who probably can't help you. And then if you're busy blaming when you can't see the solutions, or complaining, and what I always like to bring up is, do you ever notice that people only complain about the things that they have the power to change? And they only complain about the things to people that can't change a thing for them. You don't see people walking down the street going, man, this gravity's kicking my butt today.
Right.
No, well, sometimes as you get older, that does happen, but it's not something people complain about. They complain about their boss, their employees, you know, the weather, some things, there's things out of their control. So I always like to say there's this formula. It's E plus R equals O. And this got rid of all the stress in my life. E stands for the event. And I think we can all agree that you can't always control what happens to you, and you definitely can't control how other people act. But you can control the R, which is how you react to that certain situation. And that's what determines the outcome. And I think another great story is just, there is a man on a train, and he is with his 3 children. His 3 children are going nuts. They're pulling people's newspapers out of people's hands on the bus as they're riding down the street. They're throwing the ball and hitting people in the heads and the face. And people are getting pretty angry about him because he's just sitting there kind of in a daze. And finally, one man gets frustrated enough where he's like, sir, will you please get control of your kids? And he loses his temper, and he said it pretty loudly. And the man came to and looked at him and said, oh gosh, you know, I'm sorry. Their mom just died, and I'm trying to figure out a way to tell them. And so a good example of E, this guy was going crazy. And then R, how we react. And he reacted in anger because he had absolutely no idea what was going on in that man's life. And I think if that's happening, or you see some people that aren't acting the way you think they should, one of the first questions to ask before you get angry and upset and lose your temper, which is determining the outcome, because that determined this guy being incredibly embarrassed, is to just say, are you okay? And I know some of the entrepreneurs that are listening, we've all had challenges with employees or team members, or those of you who are married with spouses or people you're dating, whatever. We always have challenges. And I think it's okay to say, what else is going on? Same thing. Are you okay? Yeah. So those are some of the recurring problems that I see. Hopefully that helps everyone listening and watching.
Yeah, for sure. That's powerful. I mean, a version of that that I've tried to use is when I'm driving a car and someone's driving like a jerk or whatever, and it's probably not the case in most situations, honestly, but I just assume that guy might be on the way trying to drive to the hospital because someone's has in dire health and he needs to get there right away, or she needs to get there right away. I'm always trying to give people the benefit of the doubt because my wife is a road rager and she wears the medal. Like, she loves that. I'm like, that's not it. You're going to let someone, because that guy pulled out in front of you, or he pulled out and he's driving too slow. You're getting all fired up and you're ruining your own day. That guy doesn't give a crap,
Yeah.
and
Or you'll never meet him.
What impacts does it have on the rest of your day? Because this guy pulled out. So do you get to your destination 30 seconds later? Does that really have a negative impact on your life or your day? Even like, I mean, geez Louise.
Well, you bring up a great point, because what I always like to tell people is, listen, when you let other people get you that upset, you give them all the power.
100%.
And we're seeing it right now in this political climate. I don't care what side you're on, or if side, even if you're in the middle. I see some people get so angry, they just go off the rails and destroy everybody's day because they're so upset that this person or that person's ruining the country and everything else. And they're giving that person all the power. You just got to let it go. And I know it's hard. It's hard for everyone, including me.
Yeah, for sure. So let's shift gears. We only got about a little over 3 minutes left here, but I wanted to ask this question because I'm guessing someone out there listening or watching right now may have this question. And sometimes some of these things you might dive into, the root cause might be something that's uncomfortable, might be something that's taboo. How do you help folks lean into what maybe they don't want to see or actually don't want to admit?
Yeah, sometimes you find something, they're like, that's not it. And it just goes back to those cognitive biases and trying to make them more aware of what's happening. I was like, do you realize what's happening right now? I guarantee you this is what's going on. And I've had people come to me. I had one couple come to me that I'm not a couples counselor. They came to me, they were referred by another client. I was like, this is not what I do, guys. Not comfortable. I'll give you one call, but let's just take you through the ODNA thing and we'll go from there. And come to find out, back to the testosterone, they both had low T. They were very uncomfortable about sharing that with me because I said, well, guys, I can't help you because I know that at the core of some of the issues I've had in the past was low testosterone, low hormones. I've seen women with the same problem. And I think that's where we need to start, because right now you've been through 8 different couple counselors. Something's not working. There's something else going on here. And it turns out for that particular couple, that was it. And we got it in one call. It was really fun. It's not what I did. It's not who we work with. Typically, we work with entrepreneurs and authors and coaches and train the trainers, things like that. But it was very interesting. And it's hard because nobody wants to think they're unhealthy. Or we have a purpose strand too. Nobody wants to think they're unhappy. But another story of somebody who recently read the book, and I'm about to connect with him in a couple of days because he read the book and he's like, he went through this purpose strand. He's like, I just don't think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And he'd been a fractional COO. He's making a ton of money, but just miserable. And so he started this AI company that he's dreamed of for the last couple of years. And within 30 days, not only replaced his income, he doubled it. But his comment from his wife is what stood out to me, because he called me. He's like, the biggest benefit of your book was when I changed this and I really got aligned with what I want to do and the purpose I think I have. Even my wife started to notice at home, like, hey, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're way more present at home. You're more enjoyable to be around. I like this new you. I don't know what you did. Maybe it's your new company. I don't know. And it absolutely was his decision to do something different, which sometimes is hard. Sometimes we get the golden handcuffs. We're stuck in a job we hate. Or we retire or we sell our business and we don't know what else we should do, which is what I did 3 years ago. But I got lucky. I found this shortly after we sold, but I have a new purpose. We're trying to help 100 million people get to the root cause of a problem they can't seem to fix. And if we do so, we think we're not only going to have a ripple effect across their life and or business, but society as a whole.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Back to the whole hormone thing. So, and kind of facetiously, but I've got 3 daughters and a wife and a female cat. We got a dog. I'm like, it has to be a male, first of all. But the whole hormone thing, like, certain times hormones are all crazy. Like you can't do anything about that. You have to fix that, or if it's a natural thing, you got to kind of just ride out the storm a bit. But gosh, Kevin, it's fascinating to have you on the show. Again, Kevin's website, again, we'll put it in the show notes, but blindblaming.com, and also follow him on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check out his book, Beyond Blind Blaming. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah, awesome. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.